People of Reddit who knew celebrities before they were famous. How different do they act now? When I was really young, I'd go to the reptile park, originally owned by Bob Irwin and passed on to his son Steve. Steve was always nice, would do all the lizard and croc shows, would hang out and chat afterwards. My dad would take me there occasionally and Steve would seem to remember us. Treated everyone like an old buddy. This was before he became famous, obviously, and the small reptile park became the Australia Zoo. In my final year of high school, I got in the zoo for work experience and they let me stay on. Steve was rarely there, and when he was, he'd avoid guests, because they would swarm him and he'd get nothing done. But when I did run into him, he was always super nice and still acted like that old friend. Didn't say crikey nearly as much as you'd think. That's definitely something Aussies say, but he really played that up for the cameras as his catchphrase. Unfortunately, he died later that year, so right up till the end he was just a lovely person. I went to school with Rupert Grint, Ron Weasley from Harry Potter. I was into acting too, so we had done a few school plays together. He was really nice, very chill, a good laugh. I haven't seen him since school days, but he kept coming to classes whenever he wasn't filming. Was always happy to chat about the movies. Sometimes he'd need a little break from so many people wanting to talk, and would come and hang out in the library. And honestly, you'd never know he was in the biggest film series at the time. Honestly, I think a lot of these answers boil down to if they want fame or not. Rupert loved what he was doing, but didn't care about being famous and having people kiss his ass. Just a nice normal kid. I live in the town where Dolly Parton grew up, and practically everyone above the age of 50 who grew up here claims to either be a distant relative of Dolly's, or they claim to know her in some way. Everyone has their story of the time they met Dolly. It's pretty obvious, but regardless of who you talk to, Dolly has always been sweet and generous. But everything has simply grown exponentially due to her fame. Examples are the millions of books she gives out for free to children around the globe each month, or how she gave out $10,000 cash to many of my close friends after their houses burned in a fire a couple years back. Thousands of people are employed here and work for one of the businesses she owns, and it's a tad strange to see when you walk in. But the birthing center at the local hospital is funded by and named after her. I honestly can't think of one person I know who doesn't like her. Dolly's heart has only gotten bigger because of fame. Jack Black is the same person he was as a teenager. Funny, kind, caring, and spreading that joy of music. Not personally, but everyone in my town has a Dave Chappelle story. I worked with a guy who said he knew him. I called BS. We then met Dave and they were actually friends. Basically no one in town thought he would be much. Now he is a local hero, really down to earth. You literally see this man just chilling in the park in normal cheap clothes. Nothing has changed him. You wouldn't think he was famous. Maybe homeless but not famous. Edit, I should have said wrinkled clothes like he fell asleep then just woke up and left. I didn't see any logos and brands. People seem upset I said cheap clothes. I have no clue as to what he was wearing. Still super nice guy. You wouldn't think he was famous. A friend of mine is buddies with Paul Rudd. Says he's exactly the same and a great human. Exactly the same because he hasn't aged at all in like 20 years. A close family friend was best friends with Tom Cruise before he got famous. I didn't believe her and she showed me pictures they have taken together, like a Vegas road trip, camping, etc. He was really awesome, but as soon as he got an ounce of fame it went to his head and he became very arrogant and a fame W. Don't forget a cultist. I had a friend in high school whose cousin is Kendrick Lamar. He said Kendrick's pretty much still the same guy. Acts the same around friends and family. Just with millions of dollars now. Was this the cousin you killed back in '94? Fuck yo truce. I totally believe that. Allegedly he visits his old high school all the time to the point where it's normal to see Kendrick in the halls. My aunt was best friends with Madonna in high school, stayed friends until she got famous, and she turned into a completely different person in the worst way possible. So you're saying your aunt knew her pre-Madonna and pre-Madonna Madonna? That checks out. I mean, she adopted a new accent, so I can only imagine. Kept pushing over the borderline. My mom used to ride the bus to work in downtown Cleveland with Steve Harvey's first wife. Apparently, she supported him while he was trying to get his career started. And then basically as soon as he got successful, he divorced her for a younger woman. My mom always hated him because she felt that he treated his first wife like s and always yells "bastard" at the TV when he pops up. I've never heard a story about Steve Harvey that makes him seem like even a slightly good person. I can't remember before my aunt was famous. Alex Kingston played River Song in Doctor Who. But I remember going to her wedding and meeting Matt Smith, who played the Doctor in Doctor Who, and him fixing my flip-flop. The best moment of my life ever. You went to a wedding in flip-flops. This is one of those threads I wish I could tell the serious ones and the trolls apart. I was once best friends with Elvis until he got famous. He still visits me from time to time. Tyler the Creator, exactly the same. We were all concerned at how bizarre he was. He would call people, a table, or something incredibly random, and the sense of humor caught on in my high school. The fame did nothing. He's still strange and a sweetheart. I can almost hear "this on a table" in his deep voice, followed by his goofy laugh. Edit, spelling is hard. Haha, I love it. My mom knew Seal as far back as when he was still trying to be an architect. And she says he was always really nice. They didn't stay in touch. She moved away and they were never close. But she said he went out of his way to foster genuine connections to people before and after his music started to gain traction. He always had star quality. Everyone from the most important person in the room to a janitor walking through would be drawn to him. And he'd engage with everyone in a way that really stuck. She always mentions that he was just a really sincere, deeply felt person. My dad was good friends with Will Smith before the Fresh Prince days. Will actually showed him the pilot before it aired. Fast forward, however, many years to after Earth, and Will invited us on the set. His first words when he saw my dad 10 plus years later was, "The Philly crew is back." Both Will and Jaden are the sweetest people you'll ever meet. Edit, thanks for all the love. This is the most upvotes I've ever gotten. Internet fame. Edit 2. My dad also did all of the work on Will Smith's and Jazzy Jeff's cars back in the day. Had a little too much fun in Will's Jeep and flipped it on its roof. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. My grandfather taught Jack Nicholson in high school math class. Said he was rebellious but wasn't too bad at math. Maths teachers care more about the numbers than the rebellion. My coworker's dad grew up with Queen Latifah in North Jersey. His whole family loves her because they were about to lose their house. So she paid it off for them. They've never said a bad thing about her. Queen Latifah, if this gets back to you, thanks for what you did for your friends in NJ. Bill's a really cool guy. People laugh when I tell them she's my #1 celebrity crush. My wife is a very petite Caucasian blonde, and she always jokes that I went the exact opposite direction. I had a teacher who taught Drake. Apparently he was a nice kid but then got really douchey when he started getting famous. Like, Drake famous or Degrassi famous? Did the douchery start in his late or early teens? Family friend of mine actually dated Kurt Cobain before Ms. Love. Apparently they broke up because he wouldn't get a job. Then a little while later he got famous. Can't finish the question for obvious reasons. I remember that story. He wrote about a girl, for her to stop being mad on his unemployment. The one mentioned in the documentary. I always felt bad for her because she supported him for so long and he was just being a taker. But honestly, he had a pretty rough life. Bruno Mars's mom was a bartender at a local karaoke dive bar that I was a regular at. At the time, his biggest hit was the hook for "Billionaire" by Travie McCoy. Anyway, she was selling tickets for an upcoming concert he was having and she asked at our table if we wanted to buy some. My friend declined and she exclaimed, "Why not? He's my son!" Exclamation mark. Exclamation mark quote. I ended up getting a couple of tickets despite not knowing any of Bruno Mars's songs. It turned out to be one of the best concerts I've ever been to. The guy knows how to put on a good live show. The tickets were only $40 each, I think. His opening act was a local group of large Polynesian men singing Motown who went by the name Nation 9. They were pretty good too. The next time he was in town for a concert, he had blown up and the tickets were going for $400. I would have loved to see him again, but not at that price. His mom was really nice, down to earth, and a pretty good singer herself. Rip Bernie. At least she lived long enough to see her son's success.